How you been?
Good,
What have you been up to?
You know, it's our first time we actually formally like meet other than on
In person, yeah.
first.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically.
What have you been up to?
Honestly, work, strikeout, really busy with the gym. Just doing me, I guess. Single, so just taking care of myself. You?
How's that been for you?
Honestly?
Annoyed?
Uh, Men are men. I don't know how it is in the Toronto scene, but
Better man. You know
okay.
what? I feel like we should get into that a little bit later. But
Yeah,
first,
sounds
I think
good.
I would like to talk to you about. I think
Okay.
the big thing for you would be the Strikeout Cancer Foundation because I think
Exactly.
that's like where your heart is. So if you
100%.
want to like talk about that, explain
Yeah.
what that's all about.
So when I was 15, I started Strikeout Cancer. My mom was, well, it actually started a bit before. So my mom was diagnosed when I was 15 with stage 4 lung cancer. I mean, at that age, like you really don't understand much about what cancer is. Plus, it was like the first in the family, so the word was really new to me. So when I actually heard stage 4, I was thinking that there was 5 stages. So I always believed that like she was going to like beat the cancer and she was doing the treatments, and I don't know, I always had that hope, and that was also something that she instilled in us, my brother and I, who's 5 years younger than me, that like to never give up, to constantly fight. So she chose to like do chemotherapy and radiotherapy, and unfortunately things didn't go our way. But before that, I was planning an event to actually have her there. So it was like, oh, I just wanted to do an event just to have her smile and just for her to forget about her illness. But unfortunately, on January 6th in 2011, she passed away. But before she passed away, I did write her a letter. And that letter for me is still something that like keeps me going even now, 14 years later. And in the letter, she gave me a thumbs up because we read it to her, and I kind of said, like, I started something. The name didn't have a name yet, but ended up being Strikeout Cancer. And now it's 14 years, and I've still been fundraising. And I'm so proud to say I've raised over pretty much close to $300,000. So it's been
That's amazing.
yeah, it's been a long 14 years of hard work, but I'm sure she's proud of everything that I've accomplished to this point.
Yeah, for sure. How old were you when you started that again?
15. So she
15.
passed away in January, and then my first event was pretty much like close to 3 months, which was a bowling event. And we chose bowling just because like it was an activity that like my family loved to do, but I find it resonated with like my family as being like Italian and like always super close and like always doing everything together, and I kind of wanted to have that same impact when people would have came to the event. And just in the first event alone, we had like over 200 people come, and we've raised a great amount of money. And yeah, and I've done different types of events throughout the years. I've tried to do fitness events, gala events, club events, all sorts of different things.
They look like they're pretty busy on the gram.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, which is good. I
Exactly.
mean, the worst thing someone could do, or what I think is like trying to do something and you don't get all that support, and you're
Right?
kind of just like, I have the right reasons for it, but you're like, what?
I know.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I like community, so if I don't see a lot of people, it doesn't have to be a lot of people, but if I don't see like a good amount of people, part of me kind of like gets discouraged. 'Cause I'm like,
Right?
what did I do
I
all this
know.
work for? But I think it just goes back to like the whole meaning of why you did it.
No, for sure. And I feel like I've never been shy to saying my story in hopes that it inspires other people. So I feel like maybe that's why I've been thankful to be able to get so many people to come to the events, because I've never been shy to say that my story, and that resonates with people. And I feel like today in our generation, like and especially in 2024, like everyone's been touched by cancer one way or another. If it's not someone that
Yeah.
you know that either passed away from cancer or something that's fought cancer, and I feel like it's just a cause that resonates with everyone. So
The first thought that came to my mind was because you said that your mom was really strong and you thought stage 4 was like just, you looked at it as like an opportunity to move forward.
exactly.
When you go through something like that, take away like the whole mom situation in cancer, like for yourself as an individual, what did that do to your brain when you really put hope into something that something was going to work, and then it didn't go the way you wanted to, or just didn't even go in a good direction? Like, how did that take a toll on you mentally?
Honestly, it was a big toll. I feel like it was just like it was devastating. That's really the word I would use. I feel like you put all this energy into this idea of what you think it's going to become, and then like it ends up being that like your plans ends up getting altered. But I feel like that's like what I realized from that is what life is. Like life is always about that. Like you have your plans, like you have your ideas, and then like something changes, and then like you have to completely like just reorientate and just do something different. So I feel like it's just made me more mentally stronger, and it's just a true testament of what life really is, which is like you always have to expect the unexpected, and like life is so short, and like you just always need to don't you can't take it for granted. And I feel like that just showed me that like that is what life is, and I'm so happy that like I've seeked the help that I needed to seek at the time, and like I'm a true believer in like you definitely like people everyone needs a psychologist. I'm sorry, like there's such a big taboo about like seeing people, but like I've done family therapy, I've done one-on-one therapies, and honestly like that helped me to become who I am today, and I still think I have room to improve, and we always do. So I feel like it's so important to like seek the help you need, especially at the times you need it.
Why do you think people think of therapy as so negative sometimes? Because I get some perspective on it
Yeah,
is that you get dependent on it and you don't actually work on yourself. You just get into this whole loophole of like, okay, oh, I feel like shit. Let me go see this person. They're gonna talk to me about something I probably don't know or probably know over and over again. How do you navigate that with like? Because I know you go through the emotion stuff and it changes
hmm,
day in and day out. Did you find yourself getting into a cycle where you're like, oh, I think I'm not benefiting from it because I'm not putting in the work in a way?
yes, and I think I saw that with family therapy. I feel like I never thought that it was gonna get. I didn't see the end result in the beginning, especially like with my brother, who was more. I'm a different character. I'm more open minded, and I speak with the way I feel. My brother's more conservative and doesn't really
Mm-hmm.
share what he does. But I have to say, like you may not see it at the beginning, or you may not even realize it's working. But at the end result, there was a good end result for us. That's why I'm a true believer of that. And going back to your question about why do I think it such has a negative connotation to it, I think it's because people just think that like only people that are not mentally well are those that need to seek help. Whereas I feel like and I feel like everyone goes through shit, and I feel like everyone goes through problems. Everyone goes through ups and downs in life, and we're human. We're not machines. We're allowed to feel what we feel, and we shouldn't have our feelings devalued because of it. So I feel like I've always been a true believer in like seek help, even though like even if you're not depressed, even if you have some sort of form of anxiety and you really want to speak to like someone who's really in that field who can really help you cope with your anxiety, it's just better to seek help before until it's too late and where like you feel like your life is crumbling down.
I think sometimes people think that like getting into therapy and coming out of it is like a quick fix situation, and then some people go into it and come out of it and they're like feeling like shit after because like they a lot of things got brought to the surface where they didn't
Exactly.
want brought to the surface, you know. And like I think I'm really open to things, and I like exploring the. I have the curiosity of knowing the truth, whatever that may be. And I found myself a lot of times getting the truth thrown in my face, and I was just like, what I couldn't comprehend it, and then I would try to look at things in different ways to try to like make sense with what I was seeing versus what I felt on different situations, and it like drove me crazy. So like, did you have moments where you came out and you're like, is this even worth it? Like, I just feel like my hole's getting deeper and deeper.
There were times, yeah, where I feel like you things start to click and you start to realize like I'm acting this way because of this or because of this happened. But I don't know. I mean, I kind of just trusted the process, and I was at a
Mm,
point in life where it was like I felt like I was at the lowest point, honestly, especially after
mm,
losing my mom. So I was like,
yeah.
the only way is up. So I've always I don't know. My friends and my family sometimes say I'm annoying because I'm always like Mr. Positive, but I've always just stayed true to that, and like I've learned that with my mom, and was just like try to do everything with a smile, try to just keep and maintain positivity, and
Mm.
things will get better, even though like it seems like nothing's good at all. So
I think a lot of times I take situations that I go through and I kind of collect whatever data I take from it, emotions, feelings, how someone treated me or how they didn't, or how, you know, situations went down. And I find myself applying it to other situations that don't even have the same concept to it. I don't know if you like find yourself in that, but like I think my struggle personally is learning a lesson of something, and then when something else comes around, it could be like I'm learning a lesson from a relationship and then I'm going into like a work meeting or something, and like I don't know why, but I somehow like I'm thinking about what I went through in that situation and try to apply it to that one. So I don't know if you go through that because I do sometimes, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, what, like, what am I doing?
I feel like sometimes like you don't wanna repeat the same mistakes, but yet like so you're like trying to figure out like okay, I learned that from that situation. Like I don't want to repeat the same mistakes, so let me do it in this way. But I feel like it's so hard to do it exactly what you said. So I feel like I feel you on that one. But like for me, it's always about like I went through something devastating, and then like you think that because you went through that, like you have a different perspective of life all the time. But trust me, like when time goes on and like you get back into like the routine of life, you sometimes forget how I forgot how short life is. As like weird as that sounds, but you know, like when something like non like something so non important happens to you, and like I'm like so pissed. I hate that because it's like you knew like like so much worse than why are you buzzing about this. But I feel like as humans like that's just how we are. Like we heal but then we forget sometimes like what we've been through, I guess.
I think it's just like an unlearning too, because like yes, you have to learn certain situations, but you have to like unlearn
Yeah.
some things because like why you got into that, why did it get to that point, why did you like process it that way, why did it make you feel that way, and like how it took a toll on you. I think sometimes like I have to go inside personally and be like, okay, I have to learn and learn at the same time, and I find that difficult sometimes. I
No,
don't know about you.
no, you're right. I feel exactly the same. I feel like I don't know, I'm 29. It's like okay, like I feel like I should sometimes know better, but I guess like it just makes us who we are. We're always constantly learning.
Do you ever find yourself like wanting to control situations and being like, oh, I can't control it, I have to let it flow, but then you're
All
like,
the time, by the way.
the fuck, what's happening,
Yeah, I
what's
know.
going on, like where am I flowing to, what is this?
Yeah, I feel like I'm someone that always likes to have like things in control. And when I don't feel like I'm in control of the situation, like I start spiraling because it's like I want things to end up the way I want them to, rather than just like simply saying like I'm just gonna do this and just go with the flow. The go with the flow thing, I have so much trouble like figuring out or just like dealing with.
How do you because I think there's an intelligence that comes with that, because I feel like if you were very like mentally incapable, you wouldn't be doing all these things. That's the best, sorry, that's the best word I can say, but you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I
Like
get it.
it's crazy how I'm such a creative person and I like doing all these things, and I can start something and do all this. Like you have your strikeout, you know, you do all the events and stuff, and you still find yourself at that situation. And it's like, oh my God, like do you ever feel like you're like, can I give myself a break? Can I get a break? Like I'm doing the best, and like why is it still around me? Why am I still feeling this way?
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because I don't even, I'm always in this cycle of wanting to do more. So it's like I never really give myself a break in full honesty. So it's like I do one thing, I do one event, I'm like, okay, it was great, but it wasn't good enough. I want to do better. So I'm always in this like mode of like, which is not always a good thing actually, because I feel like I never take the time to like really appreciate or like really acknowledge like how far I have come. So it's more like, okay, this event I raised 10 grand. Why didn't I raise 15? I always have higher
Mm.
and higher expectations for myself, which is a good thing because like you're always shooting for more, but then it has its downfalls, I guess, as well.
You find yourself in limbo a little bit because
Yeah,
you're not getting, you're like not super happy and you're not super sad. You're just like stuck right
stuck right
there.
there. Yeah.
With well, like what you said with the whole like money thing, how do you like navigate that specifically with like, because I know the meaning for it. It's like all the, like what you can do with that money to help all these people, and it's kind of just like that 5K or
Mhm.
whatever, just like it can make a difference. How do you like take some time to look at that and be like, okay, it's okay, like this is what it
Yeah,
is.
obviously, like let's say do an event and like I put I put like I'll say a budget, not a budget, but like a goal of 10 grand and like I get to 7. Obviously, like I'm not like screaming of joy because I didn't achieve the goal, but I like realized that like you did what you could and like be proud of what you've achieved to this point. Like you know,
Yeah.
like I'm
Do you find yourself having a hard time telling yourself that?
yeah, I do actually. I feel
Yeah.
like I'm like, okay, you've come out there and told everyone like at this event we're raising 10 grand, and like if I don't get to that goal, I feel like I'm not successful, or I'm not doing what I
Mm,
said, which bothers me.
yeah. I'm glad we're having like a conversation like this because I find a lot of times if I'm talking to people or just like, I find myself having a lot of different situations in my head that I'm trying to figure out and navigate. And like I do get the fluff of it and I'm thankful that people say, don't worry, keep going. It's like I know that. All those things
Yeah,
that people, I don't know if you get this too. I know what people are telling me. It's like it's not like I haven't thought about it or felt it before. It's just like understanding that that's who you are and like actually navigating that because like I get where you're coming from with the whole like not good enough or just like oh why couldn't I just get there, and it's like you definitely have, you seem like the type of person that took the time to be like no, like this is fine, but you still had that thought and then maybe a few seconds or moments later it kind of just like you found yourself in limbo and you're just like the fulfillment aspect of it didn't fill you up or it didn't take away, it was just
exactly.
like, and then I think that goes into like okay, like what's the point of this, not in a negative way,
No,
but
no,
it's just like you get in like a nuanced way of thinking of like, hey, what's like, what is this? Like, what is it going on for me? I don't know
no,
if
for
I'm just
sure.
saying that and like you're not relating, but you know what I mean?
No, no. I think for me, it's because, like, let's say for me, fundraising, it's like my passion and like my true outlet in life, and like it's what I love to do. So I feel like I always set myself high standards, and anything that I do, and maybe it's like yes, like you said, in the moment, like I'm not satisfied, and then like I'm fighting with my internal self in a way like, okay, yes, you didn't achieve your goal, but listen, like um, you should be proud of yourself because in all honesty, I'm not getting anything out of it. Like, yeah, like you know
Mm,
what I'm trying to say. Like, it's not like a business where like where I'm making profit. I'm not
mm-hmm,
making profit for myself. Like everything that I do is for the greater good. I'm not paying myself. That's a question I get all the time. Like, oh, you're not making a cut. I'm like, no, because I don't know. Like, I feel it's so unethical. It's
it's
just
a
not.
fundraiser, but I
Yeah, it's
get
a
what you're
fundraiser.
saying.
Right? I'm
Yeah.
not there to make. I'm not there to make profit for myself. I'm there to like do good for other people and try to like the money we raise goes towards making kids who have cancer wish to come true. For
Mm,
me, I don't need to make money. I'm not there for the money. I'm there to just impact a child's life. That's why for me like that 10 grand in each event is so important, because if I don't raise that 10 grand, then the child's wish doesn't come true. Not only do I put myself like an amount, but like I put myself an amount that like someone's wish depends on it, which is even harder.
yeah.
So but yeah, no, I feel like it just gives me added motivation just to do everything I can to get there.
I want to jump back a little bit what you just said because you just said that you don't do it for anything. It's not really
Yeah.
for you. You don't get anything out of it. It's for whatever. You think like
Hmm.
subconsciously that's doing something to you on an emotional level?
Yeah, I
Where
think
it's like you're giving all this and it's for the greatest cause and it's so worth it, but to a core of yourself, you're actually not like not that you're
so.
not getting anything out of it because you are, but like you are
Yeah.
you're filling up the cup way more than anybody else is filling it up. That's my best analogy for it. And it's like that's fine. It's just like you're a running machine 24/7, you
Yeah,
know?
you're saying like, are you saying like why are you doing it if you're not getting anything
Yeah, like how does that
technically
do you
out of
get,
it?
did you ever think like it like gets to you on a level where it affects you to the point where you think like you said earlier like oh I'm not good enough, it's not this and that.
Um, so I feel like yes at times, but maybe because there's such a like a sentimental reason of why I'm doing it, that's like I feel like I owe it to my mom, or I feel like I owe it to
Mm,
something that I never uh like it just feels right. And that's the
mm,
weirdest thing to explain to. Like everything that I do, all the hours I put in, like I'll like whenever it comes to the event days, like I'm off work, I'm working until God knows what hour of the day. For me it's not work. And that's the difference.
mm,
And that's why people are like, oh, but you spend all this time into it, but you don't get anything out of it. But what people don't understand is when you really love to do something, you can be putting in 30 hours, 50 hours, 60 hours, you don't care. And that exactly for me is for fundraising. It's like I
mm.
know I honestly wish I could do more. And that's what I always tell people. Like I feel
If
like I
money
actually
was an
don't do it.
option for you.
Yeah, I feel like I actually don't
Yeah.
do enough. And I feel
Mm,
like, people have bigger platforms than I do, and I wish that people could take their platforms and do something actually good with it. You know, and everyone has their
Yeah.
own beliefs and everyone has what they want to do with it. But I just feel like I'm always expecting better and more, and that's really how I've always been, to be honest.
Yeah. I think the hardest pill to swallow as an individual is the older you get and the more you are developed in your spiritual sense, in your mental sense, it gets harder. Because what you
Yeah,
just said, like you got to a point where like, it's been 15 years and you're doing this and it's still hard. There's
yeah,
probably it's a different level and it's like you don't give up obviously, but like it's like somehow you take two steps forward and it's like one step back in a sense because just like there's still things that are getting hard as they go in different ways and different concepts. So like
100%.
I don't know if you like took that in and
Yeah,
like when you have moments like that, is it just going back to I love this. This is what I want to
yeah.
do.
I
Like
think
what's
mentally,
your
it's always just reminding myself, like, why are you doing this? Like, what's the reason you're doing this? Why are you doing this? Reminding myself I love doing this. Like even if you raise $100, who cares? You're still making a difference. Like it's really like drilling that. I actually think the hardest part is like it being like now 14 years is that I've always used my story in a way for it to resonate with people to get their support. But now that
mm,
it's like 14 years, like the story isn't fresh anymore. And like
yeah.
as weird as that sounds,
Yeah.
like when it was the first year, it was more like people care not people cared more, but it was like, oh
It
my
hit
god,
home
it's
more.
so yes, exactly. It was more so much more fresh. Now it's like, okay, it's 14 years. Like I still get like, wow, like you're still doing it, like you haven't given up, like aren't you tired of it? But in all honesty, I'm not. So I guess just mentally I've always reminded myself like you're doing this for a reason and just keep going and see where it can go, I guess.
Well, I think that went more into the children aspect of it, no?
Yes,
Helping the kids. Was it always
100%.
that when you started it?
When I first started, I gave my money to the St. Mary's Hospital. So it was like a hospital where my brother and I were born. My mom was treated, but I just felt like I was raising all this money and it was going to research. And like for me personally, I feel like there's millions and millions of dollars that are being given to cancer research, but yet we're still fighting the same disease. And I have my own like my own beliefs about that. So I'm like, okay, you know what? Like I want to stop giving money necessary to the research part of it, but I want to give the money to where I can see immediate impact. And which is where I started working with Make a Wish because Make a Wish allowed me to meet with families, and these families, I was able to get in touch with the kids, and I was able to meet the kids. I was able to like be one on one with them, and that's what I loved honestly, and what I still love is constantly meeting new families and like being able to like bring that hope and that love and that support to them, and especially the wish is such a big thing, like all these kids are all touched by cancer, and some of them are still ongoing treatment, some of them are thankfully cancer free, and like to be able to be a reason that they'll never forget, for me is why I do it, honestly, like to be that.
Yeah.
And I have kids that like I met such a long time ago, and now like one of them is in college and like we're still in touch, and it's like I saw her when she was like 9, so it's like crazy.
You're basically extending the motherly love you receive to everybody else. I feel like that's what you're doing, which is a good thing.
Yeah, I've never actually thought of it that way, but
When you get something in life and it gets taken away from you, I think you put yourself in a situation where you either want to crave it a lot or you want to give it a lot. And I feel like you took a good route with it, but I'm saying you took a route
yeah,
where it's like taking care of people.
like literally, you've described me when it comes to my fundraiser, when it comes to my family, when it comes to my friends, and when it comes to relationships. So yes, you've got that spot on.
So I want to ask you now, where do you find a space for yourself?
I feel like you make time for yourself. Like maybe also being single, like I don't have to entertain anyone, so I have all the time to myself, honestly. So I just I work, I gym, I fundraise, and then I obviously go on weekends and stuff. So yeah, I know I feel like I have like a healthy balance of everything,
Hmm.
I feel like I always tell people like if you want to do it, you'll do it. I just don't watch TV much. So whereas
Hmm.
someone probably would be watching Netflix, I don't at this point care to watch it. So I'll go to the gym rather than watching Netflix.
With what you just said, because I'm the exact same. Like at one point, I was waking up to the gym at like 7 in the morning, then going to work at one of the works that I worked at,
Hmm.
drove home, got changed, and then I would go teach dance at night, and then Like that was my schedule. I found myself, I don't know if you can relate or get the point from this. I found myself, yes, doing those things and it's fine, but it was getting to a point where I was distracting myself from like what is actually going on, what I'm feeling. Because like I get like sulking in something is not
Hmm.
great and you
Hmm.
want to like move forward. It's like there's a balance between moving forward and just like accepting it for what it is and moving on. I don't know if you taken a chance to think about it that way, but I think sometimes with myself, like, yes, I want to do all these things, but it's kind of just like I'm trying to force myself to put myself in a cycle. And it's like, maybe I'm missing something here. Do you feel like that
Yeah, no, I
sometimes?
feel like definitely like when I had lost my mom, that was a big thing. Like I wanted to always put myself in a cycle because I didn't want to be alone. Like the thought of like
Mm,
being home alone and like just being in my own thoughts like was too much for me to handle. And really,
mm,
so now like at 29, I don't care to be alone. I've grown to like be okay with that. But I generally enjoy having a routine. I think
mm,
like that gives me some
yeah.
sort of purpose. Like I feel like if I'm not in a routine, I feel like I'm unproductive and it doesn't actually make me feel good. Not because I can't tolerate my thoughts, but more like I feel like my day wasn't productive and that leads to me not being happy. So
Mm,
me being super busy actually makes me feel better, not because I'm running away from anything. I'm really self-aware with what's going on in my life. It's just like I need to feel good with what I'm doing and feeling productive.
yeah. I think it just goes back to like controlling how you
Yeah,
look at things. Because like you can look at something, or not even controlling how you look at things, controlling how like you react to things. Because that's the only thing you have control of at the end of the day, how you react to something. So like, I totally get that where like you think and feel a certain way, and it's kind of just like I know if I'm looking at the big spectrum of it, I shouldn't do that. Even though
yeah,
I let's say it's like a situation where I'm like super heated, if I do it just to feel good for that moment, just like I know, don't do that because like
you're
I don't
right.
know what's happening down the road if I say something and do something, and I don't know what the repercussion of that is, you know. So you say you're 29, you're hitting your 30s now. How does that feel?
That's another stress, actually. I turned 30 June next year, so I'm like, okay, I still have like another solid like 7 months before. But honestly, I have to say, like, people like I've had this conversation with multiple people that are 29 as well. All my friends are most of us are 29, and we're like, we actually feel the stress. Like, I don't know if it's
Mm,
the stress from external stress or the stress that we put in ourselves because I feel like okay, like oh my god, we're almost 30. Like I need to have my life together. Like, or I feel like it's just the pressure that the society gives us. Thought to myself, like, I'm fine. Like, why, like, what tells you that 30 you need to have everything put together? Like, when someone asks me, like, in 7 months how old I am, the fact that I won't be saying in the 20s anymore, I think is the scariest. Is the
oh
scariest
yeah.
part of it.
What was your scary age in your 20s? Like, did you have a moment where you're just like, what's going on?
I think it's before I came out. So I came out at 22. So I think
Oh, okay.
in, from 20 to 22, I think it was like, what am I doing? Because I know I'm not happy and I'm living my life in a lie. And like, I just felt like I was like in this cycle of like trying to maintain a lie to myself, but like also putting up a front with all my friends. And like, the moment I came out at 22, after that, like, I feel like I changed as a person. And then I more and more as years go on, like, more myself and who I am. So,
Let's get into that because what you just said about like coming out and stuff,
mhm.
you felt like you had a big change,
Yeah.
like a big change.
I feel like I was like my friends say this too. Like the moment I came out, I was able to be more who I was or who I was
Mm,
like, and not less who I was trying to be. I tend to be more like the sarcastic type, or I could be pretty like.
sassier.
Thank you. That's actually that's literally the word I was looking for.
You're
Sassier.
like trying to find a different word for it. You're like,
I
yeah,
was like,
sassier. We're gonna
yeah,
go
no,
sassy.
like spot on sassy. Yeah. So,
You're a Cancer, right?
yes, I'm a Cancer. What are you?
You guys could have that trait. No, I'm Gemini.
Okay.
June 3rd.
But like I'm on the cusp of Gemini and Cancer. I'm on the 22nd, so
It's really different how people come out
right?
because what you just said about you changed, my experience wasn't like that.
Really?
Like I
Okay.
the way that I don't like I obviously you you grow into yourself. Like, yes, you change, but I feel like I kind of just like stayed the same. I just elevated a little bit, but like my experience coming out wasn't like that. And I think I personally have a hard time relating with people sometimes because like my life was just the only thing that changed was like I was telling my friends like I was going to go hook up with someone and who it was. You know what I mean? Like my life didn't change in that aspect because I felt like I was still myself.
Okay.
And yeah,
Yeah,
like I know
no,
it's different. You
I
probably different for you, but
yeah.
like I don't know if you had any friends that were like that as well. That kind of just like were the exact same, and they
Yeah,
just
I know some, but I think also because like I was seeing girls before and I was like kind of hooking up with girls before. So it was like I had this whole different like facade of who I was. And maybe my
mm,
entourage at that point were very like heterosexual males, and like I needed to keep up with it, and it was just like, oh, like why aren't you hooking up with girls, like, so it was like I had so much pressure to like conform to like it matched their energy, and if I didn't I would get like reprimanded for not or made fun of. So I feel like maybe that's why
mm,
that the moment I came out, I had a different friend group. There were more gays in the group, and I guess maybe that's why like I felt like I was more myself because before maybe I was with the people that I just wasn't who I was. Like it was just wasn't me.
mm. That could probably be a reason why I was didn't have that experience. So like I was like I danced growing up, so I was surrounded by girls all the time.
Yeah.
Like in high school, I dated a girl. Like it was for me, it was serious. So like it's not like I was putting up a front. Like I genuinely had that connection with her, and I knew what I was and what I wanted. I just didn't share it.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was different because like I just hung like it was.
You're
I had moments where I'm like, why don't I have like more guy friends? But then it just went away because like I was enjoying my time with everybody, and it was just like how I came up, like dancing when I was a little kid. It was literally all girls and crop top and booty shorts. Like that's I, you know what I
yeah,
mean?
I
Like
get
that
it.
was just my life. So like it was a thought for me, but it wasn't like a
Yeah.
maybe once in a while I thought maybe I should have another guy friend, whatever. But I didn't care to that much because I thoroughly enjoyed where I was at with everybody
That's
else.
true. Maybe because I was in soccer, so soccer is more like a manlier sport, I guess. So like once again, like I played from when I was until when I was 22. So always conforming to like these norms of like how I should act and how I should be and what sports I should. Actually, I did dance, by the way. I did in high school, but not to your level.
Oh yeah,
Not all to your level, but like I took dance, and then all the guys were like, "Oh, you're so smart. You took dance, so you could be the only guy with all the girls." I was like,
you're
"Yeah,
like
that's." I was like, "Yeah, that's
yeah.
definitely why I took dance."
What genre did you
So
do?
contemporary
Oh
salsa,
come on,
no,
contemporary and salsa, nice.
yeah,
Not even hip hop,
a
jazz.
bit of hip hop, but a bit of
What made you
jazz.
want to do those two?
We had dance shows every year, so like our group number was always either contemporary or jazz, and then like after school program, I always took salsa because like I had a huge crush on this girl, and the girl wanted to take salsa, so we ended up becoming salsa
You're like, all
partners. So I
right.
was like, all right, and she was like the hottest girl in school at the time, so I was like, I was even cooler because I was her partner. Anyways,
Hmm,
yeah.
interesting. Um, no, I'm just listening to like your conversation, and I can see the cancer aspect of you because what a cancer is a crab, and a crab shell is the home, and it's kind of like wherever you're going, you take everything with you. So like the whole soccer situation I saw, like you were that was your home, so you made it your home, and then like the salsa thing, you're like, okay, I'm doing this, so you know what
Yeah,
I
I get
mean?
what you
Like
mean.
you bring your home everywhere, which is I think is cool in some ways, and then other ways, you get to points where like you're coming out and you're like, wait, who am I? What am
Yeah.
I? And then you find a new home for yourself. What was like your steps for coming out? I don't want to say steps, but you know what I mean? Like what brought you to that point where like, you know what,
Yeah,
it's
no.
time.
Actually, what brought me to coming out was the fact that I met a guy. And he had saw me on Panorama Italia, a magazine, and I was on it for my
Oh.
fundraiser. And no, it was
Mm,
actually like they do like a feature of like people. Anyways, and I was one of the people that they were featured on with like my picture and everything. And then I ended up getting like
got
a
it.
Facebook ad, and he had added me, and then it was on Instagram, and then like he slid into my DMs and whatever. Like someone knew of him, and they're like, "Yeah, by the way, he's gay," and I was like, "Oh, okay, that's fine. Like, who cares?" And then we ended up talking, and then like we got closer and closer. So he was out, but obviously he knew that I was closeted, but I never addressed it. And then we got really close, and then our friends got close. Like we kind of merged the groups
Oh.
together, and then we went on a vacation. And then after we got back from vacation, things just ended up happening, and then we we hooked up, and then yeah, and then so I ended up coming out to my family and my friends as gay and in a relationship.
Mm.
So it was like a double whammy.
Yeah. So what was the timeline from adding you to telling them? How long was that?
Pretty quick,
Oh, it
like
was?
a good 7 months.
Okay. Well, that's not
Well,
not quick, but like I
I
get what
mean,
you're saying. Yeah.
yeah, it in essence it's not that quick, but it just flew by really fast, honestly.
I met my ex at the time, it was March, and then I told my parents in July that year. So it wasn't that
Okay,
long.
which is even shorter than me.
Yeah, exactly. So funny. How long was that for you?
My that relationship didn't end that long.
Oh.
It was 3 months, but we're still friends still today. We're all good. It ended really well. I think him. So I still joke about it today. Like he helped me really like come out and understand a lot that I didn't understand about
Mm.
myself. And
I think you
um,
need that sometimes when you don't have anyone else
yeah, I
that's
feel like
like,
he pushed me, and I needed that push to like stop being scared and just be who you are and just go for it. And I
yeah.
think, and that's exactly what I needed.
Have you like dated after that, or you kind of just been
Yes, I did.
like,
Yes.
yeah,
No, I dated. Then I dated another guy, and that lasted about 4 years,
mm,
and then that ended. And then I saw some other guy on and off for a year, and that ended now in July.
mm.
So now so it's like 4 months that I'm single.
Not, we don't have to like get into details, but like, what was your biggest takeaway of having a 4 year relationship and then like coming out of it?
I think the hardest thing was your lives start in like we were so close, and I think and it was throughout even COVID, so it brought us even closer because like there was little here in Quebec, we had restrictions like way more than anywhere else in honestly in North America.
Yeah.
Like we had curfew at 8 o'clock,
No.
so it was crazy. So I think that really got us even more attached and closer because like there was nothing to do and nothing to go, so we're always with each other. So I feel like when things ended, it was even harder to detach because that's all we both knew of each other.
Mm,
But he needed to go venture out and do what he needed, and I think I needed to do exactly the same in my own way. So I feel like we separated partly amicably, and I think that was fine. And I have respect for him. We're still friends and whatever. But no, I think being in a relationship for 4 years is obviously difficult because like you kind of I feel like I personally lost myself in that. I stopped putting myself first, and I put him first, and I told myself like in my future relationships to always remind myself that like maybe it's because I'm a cancer, but I need to like put myself first before other people, and I need to make sure that my mental health is first.
yeah. Um, did you find yourself having a hard time meeting other people because you would take whatever situations you took from that relationship and like if you saw something that was weird that the other person did, you were like bring it back to that relationship, be like, oh, that's a red flag. Oh, this is the
Yeah, 100%. I don't even think it's in a bad way though, because I feel like we need to be like when you see a red flag, like we actually need to pay, like if we see it, we should stop there because like we're gonna constantly be making the same mistakes.
yeah.
So, however, I'm not perfect, and I'm pretty sure I made on my other relationship after the 4 years, I saw red flags and I completely ignored them. But whatever.
That um I think like going back to like the red flags and stuff, I think it's like again, actually back to what I said at the beginning of this chat, like just unlearning. Like
Yeah,
you in a yes, you can see it, be aware that it's coming from a place of a past, but it's like, okay, look at it for what it is versus like what it was. Because I
yeah,
find myself looking back at things at what it was, and I'm like, I'm aware that it's not, it may not be exactly what it is or anything at all. There's something there, but it's like reminding me of a past situation. And it's kind of like, it's basically the universe forcing myself to be like, okay, like, are you going to learn from this or not? And not learn from
yeah,
it from like, try to fix it, just like changing your process. Because I think as we grow up on the way, like we get like when people say trauma, it's they don't think of it of just like exaggerated of getting hit by a car or it's like just there's traumas and everything like the way someone said hi to you, you know what I mean, like little things like that. So like I think on the way as we grow, we have to get to a point where it's just like we have to see things for what they are and what they're not. And like I like for me that drives me crazy because then I go into hyperspace. I'm like, oh my God, like what what am I underthinking it? Am I overthinking it? I don't know if you find yourself in that situation too, but it's crazy
No, no.
sometimes.
I'm definitely an overthinker, so I'm definitely not an underthinker. Overthinking is like my thing, and I'm still like learning on how to like stop overthinking and just like I said before, like go with the flow. That those two things I still struggle with. So
I was trying so hard to intellectualize what going the flow was because I go to like I don't go to a therapist. I go to like someone who does Reiki and I go to an astrologer. So like I think for me it's more helpful in that sense. But like they would like tell me all the time you just gotta flow, and then like I would leave the sessions and be like figuring out how to go with the flow and like completely missing the whole like I just missed the bar with that. Should I go with the flow? And here I am trying to figure out what the flow is. And
right.
like, no, that's not what you're supposed to do. What do you do with that? Do you like do you get to a point where you're aware of that and you're like, oh my God, what am I doing to myself?
100%. I feel like I sometimes I just don't know. I had this conversation with someone recently, and I'm like, when I go with the flow and I don't care. I think it's when I don't care. Is when I care that's the problem. Because when I don't care about something or someone, I can go with the flow, and that doesn't bother me. And I feel like things end up working out even better. But the moment I actually care and I like put my mind to it, or like not when I obsess, but like when I actually think about it, then can't. The flow doesn't happen for me, and then I that's when I start
Yeah.
like overthinking, and then like I start spiraling, and that just doesn't go anywhere.
Do you find going with the flow gives you a hard time making decisions on certain things?
Yeah, for sure. Because I never know when I'm supposed to make a decision. I'm just like
Me.
kind of just
I'm like sometimes I might go with the flow and I'm like something feels really weird and I'm just like,
right.
how do I flow? And then yeah, it goes back to the intellectual thing, like how do I flow? And it's just like, do I just react the way I'm gonna react? But then I don't want to be like
Yeah.
I think that it just goes back. I think for me, like what I'm thinking right now, saying that just goes back to the whole control. And I think the way want to be projected as an individual, which I gotta stop. But anyways, I digress. But I think sometimes it gets really tough because you're just like the flow's not flowing, and I'm trying to fixate on how to flow, and it's not a flow anymore. It's like a puzzle piece.
No, you're not wrong. And likewise to what you said, I feel like even myself, like I have to remind myself sometimes like not to care what people think, and just like, and if it's like not flowing anymore and I need to intervene and make a decision, like I need to stop caring like what that person could feel or think about how I react to that situation. So I think like I feel
Yeah.
on that.
How do you, as an individual and yourself, take situations where you're like, damn, I actually need to say no to this or I need to change this, and it's going to affect somebody else.
That's the hard
You
thing.
seem like a caring guy.
Hmm.
You don't want to get into that. So, like, how do you take what you're taking into your mind with that whole situation and how do you move forward with that?
I think I before I struggled even more with like saying no, and like no wasn't part of my lingo. Like I couldn't say no because if I said no, then I felt like either I had this fear of like losing people. So I felt like
Mm,
in me saying no to someone, that would maybe make them not want to be in my life anymore. So I had such an unhealthy relationship with myself where it'd be like I didn't care if it didn't benefit me, or I didn't care. Like it was always about the other people and less about me. And I feel like with age and as I got older, I realized like it is healthy to say no. You're allowed to feel no. You're allowed to say no. Remind yourself that you are important and like you should put yourself first. And if you don't want to do something, you don't need to do it. And if they want to walk out, hey, you could say, you can, like, it doesn't really matter what you say or what you do. If they're meant to be in your life, they'll stay in your life. And if they really appreciate who you are, if they really want to be in your life, they will be there. Like, that's what I was trying to get to. So I feel like that was a big thing. I feared people walking out. And maybe that goes back to like having lost my mom, who was my best friend. And maybe I developed some sort of insecurity with that. But that was a big thing. Like, especially with my friends, it was like I couldn't say no. I didn't even know how to say no. And now it's like I could say no, and maybe sometimes I even say no in too much of a saucy way. So I don't know.
Do you find yourself very black and white with the whole after the post conversation of that being like, okay, it's either we're friends or we're not friends. It's either we're seeing each other, being nice, or we're not friends, we're not talking. Do you find yourself getting into those zones?
Yeah, I just don't like when I don't know what the situation is. So like, if we end up in a
Yeah.
bad like whatever, I guess with my recent ex now, um, I didn't feel like I did him dirty in any way, but he perceived it in a different way, and I can't control how someone else
Mm,
perceives my actions. But I feel like if I'm honest with how I feel about a situation, then it is what it is. But I feel like I try my best to never end something in like not in an amicable way. I like to leave situations when like being okay with that person. And okay could mean a variety of different things, but what I mean by okay is I mean like I personally don't like when people dislike me. So maybe that is another bad thing to have because like I always want people to like me, but unfortunately
yeah.
actually my most recent ex, that was the first time that I broke up with someone. It was always me getting broken up with,
Oh,
and trust me, that was actually that was a huge thing because like I don't like hurting people,
making that
and
choice.
I knew what choice I had to make, but the process of actually having that conversation and breaking someone's heart
Yeah.
was the most painful part because I know how it feels to be in their shoes, and I didn't want to be that person to do it. But I mean, it is what it is.
Do you find it hard to find the greatness of relationships in that way, where it's kind of just like some things are normal, but other things aren't, but we're fine, but it's different,
100%.
but it's okay.
Yeah, no,
You know what I
no,
mean?
100%. I'll go back to my first boyfriend. I feel like with time, it took us to get to a healthier friendship, and that transition sometimes just doesn't work. Honestly, like I see with my other friend, with my other friends, and like it just doesn't work. But I feel like if two people are willing to make it work, and if you really think or understand that this relationship really isn't meant to be or it's not what we both want, but we still want each other in each other's lives, I think you can make it an amicable friendship. I feel like heterosexual couples don't see it that way and whatever. Maybe that's more of in the gay world, but it could be. But it also takes two people wanting to make it a healthy friendship.
I wanted to ask you, like, what's the whole scene down there? I never been to Montreal.
You've never been to Montreal?
No, sorry, I went once, but like when I was like 8, and it was like old my
Okay. Well,
family's family friends that lived there.
you definitely should
But
come to Montreal. Our gay village is like 6 times the size of Toronto's village, by the way.
oh, was it actually?
Yeah, it's actually like huge.
Mm,
Um, honestly, it's like any city. I feel like everyone just knows everyone, so it's
mm.
not. I feel like everyone like is well connected, and like if you're in the scene, everyone knows who you are. I guess in a way, it has its pros and cons. Like I don't know, like it's sometimes I'm like, okay, it's so unhealthy to be in the mix. I don't know. I just, yeah.
Sometimes it's a Mean Girls movie, and you're like, what's going on?
What's going on literally? I don't like to be in the drama, even though I like drama. I just don't like I like that doesn't really interest me, but
You have you have to clarify that because you said you don't like the drama, but you like drama. What do you mean by that?
I like knowing it. I just don't like to be I don't want to be the cause of the drama. I don't mind to be kind of in the drama as long as like I'm not the one like yeah, I don't know, it's really complicated. But I my friends call me a shit disturber sometimes with them, so I'm always the one that like starts something, but then I leave the situation. But when it comes to the gay
What?
scene, like yeah, I don't know. When it comes to the gay scene, I just don't I feel like everyone talks. So you do one thing and then everyone else knows about it. That's what I don't like. I feel like you hook up with one person, the whole world knows. And I'm not saying I hook up with the world. Let's get that. Let's just clear that. Let's just clear that statement.
I don't know if you relate, but like I found myself not being I don't think I need to integrate with anybody, to be honest with you, any group, but like just getting into those situations and that I don't want to say lifestyle, but that just kind of way of living, I would say.
Hmm.
Like I started doing that like 2 years ago, I would say. And I would like I made friends, but I was just like, what the fuck? Like, it's crazy. It's cool in a way how casual everyone is,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it's a little too crazy how casual everyone is, if that makes sense. Because like you have so many, like what you just said, everyone knows everything, everyone's hooking up, and it's just like I don't like that
No,
personally.
me neither.
So like
I never was in open
finding that
relationships.
balance, and then
That's
like, what's
that's
your opinion on
That's
that?
Montreal scene. I don't know how I was in Toronto, but definitely like when you go out in Montreal, like you could meet a guy and ends up being that like he's in an open relationship.
What's your view on that?
So my ex actually had asked me to be in an open relationship. I don't. I'm not one for. I just don't get it. That literally, I'll say I just don't get open relationships. Like, if you want to be with someone and just like go screw around on the weekends, like just don't be like just be single at that point. Like I just don't get it.
Mm, yeah, no, I agree. It's hard to like
Like I'm open to
navigate that.
understanding, and I've tried to understand it, but I just don't get it. Or maybe just it doesn't align with my values. But for me, it's like if I'm with someone, I'm with someone. Like I'm not with someone to.
I think, sorry to cut you off. I think that's hard because here you are having values and it's like you want to learn something new. It's like trying to figure out if it truly is like something that like you can fuck with when later or not, and being like, is this a value? Is this not? Am I not open to it? Am I closed off? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
The exploration of it is difficult in a sense because you're
yeah.
trying to just like, do you feel like you would have to go through it to understand it first, or you kind of just want to be like, I want to look at it for A and B and pick what side it is?
So in my past relationship, I kind of was open to the idea of maybe potentially trying it, but with a lot of time and reflection, I realized like I'm too crazy like for that. Like I'm sorry, but I just can't share you. Like that's just not. It just doesn't work.
Was your openness to it for him mostly?
Could be. Maybe it was not necessarily just for him, but also to like try to remain open to something maybe different. I don't know. I try to maintain open, have an open mind to different things. So I kind of wanted to see like how I felt towards the situation. At first, it was like a complete no, but then like as time went on, I was like, okay, maybe we could see. It just doesn't sit well with me, so I'm like, unfortunately, it's
Mm.
a no.
I think it's an interesting situation because I dated a guy for 2 years, and like in the middle of those 2 years, I had a conversation with him. He basically told me that he was cheating and hanging out with people at the beginning of a relationship. So I found myself getting to a point where I was just like, my brain couldn't wrap around it, and then like I was okay with it, but not. And
Mm,
then I was just thinking about it way too much, and then I considered letting a third in or whatever, and then having that conversation with him, and then he was like, what do you mean? And then I found myself being like, why am I trying to do this? Am I trying to make this relationship work?
yeah.
Am I actually curious? I don't know if like you went through that thought process, but I just found myself being like, what's going on? Like, why am I putting myself in this situation for?
100%. Especially in my past relationship, it was like, how did I go from a complete no to like, oh, how am I actually maybe actually entertaining this thought? And that's where I was like, okay, like maybe I am curious. Maybe it was just because I was taught never to be this way, or I don't know. Like maybe it was my values or my core values that were like, no, this is so wrong, and it's like it is a no. I don't know. But at the end of the day, like for me, it just wouldn't work. I just can't.
I think it just goes back to like, I don't want to sound like that person, like, oh, society, this and that. It's just like that's what it is at the end of the day. Like, you get married, you find
Yeah,
somebody, and you stay with them. I get that to a T, like 100%. I would love monogamy 100%. That's most likely what I'm gonna get into. But it's like, where did this come from? Like, what's the reasoning? Like, what I think, I like watch a lot of history stuff, and I just think personally, back in the day, like, marriage was created to have all these societies and different empires still running and going. Like, how can you? Because they need kids, and then they need more people. So the way to do that is force people to stay together and have kids, and then just like not going anywhere else. Because then like, oh, if you were free to go where you wanted to, you probably wouldn't want to have kids, and then like that whole bloodline gets, you know what
yeah,
I
I get
mean.
it. I
Like,
get
so
it.
I think that I like my history side comes in. I'm just like, that's a thing too. The hard part about that though, it's like, yes, you could take history side of it and this version of it, and it's like both aren't good and they aren't bad. It's kind of just like allowing yourself to be like, I can actually do whatever I want
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
No.
I think that's the hard part.
Yeah, no, for sure. I get what you're saying, but then it also depends on like how you are as a person.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's where it comes
Yeah.
from, who you are as an
Yeah, no,
individual and like what
100%. But
happened.
you also,
And everything's meant to
for
be
sure, you
at the
also,
same time. So it's like,
it's funny because you also said that like you're most likely gonna end up in and just being with that one person, but it seems like you're still like
mm,
on the fence with like not sure from what you said.
I get what you're saying. It's being aware that I'm not restricted, but also knowing what works for me.
Okay.
Let's just say I start dating somebody and they're like talking about like, I'd be like, I'll look at the situation for what it is, and if I'm not feeling it, I'm not feeling it.
Okay.
If it's like, okay, cool, we could try it, sure. I don't know how I feel about it. You don't know what you don't try at the end of the day, so like, how can you make a full decision on that? But then that gets into like a loophole of like, oh, I haven't tried A, B, C, D, E, F, G,
Basically.
LSD drugs, all this stuff, and you're just like, I don't know. So it's like you. I think it just goes back to the end of the day. You have the power to choose what you want to do.
Yeah, no, for sure.
You
But I
know.
feel like it's also very important to like to stay true to who you are though. And I feel like you know who
Mhm.
you are and you don't need to be something that you're not because you're trying to either keep a man or you're trying to persuade a man. So that's kind of my take on that one.
Yeah, I think if you can't be fluid with me on a person, if you can't be fluid with yourself and your partner, of course someone's gonna want to revert to like having a different person to like, okay, take a break and go there. Like, I would need somebody who can balance that and go through all the emotions with me and like want to like try
Yeah,
things, not with another person, but you know, and just getting in that world of like knowing each other and
for
understanding each
sure.
other. That's where I want to be at. I think at the end of the day, it's a relationship, so you have to work on things.
Yeah. Oh,
Maybe in some point this person doesn't have the capacity to work on things, and there's like a roof that they're
yeah.
hitting with that on a emotional level, and they just can't do that. So that's what they choose to do. It's like I can't tell you it's wrong, but maybe it's right for you. I
Yeah,
don't know.
no, for sure.
I'm like you in a sense where I care about people. So when I see something that might hurt them, I will get so fixated on trying to be like, are you
Yeah.
sure? And like I have like a trillion things behind me that I need to work on, but I'm like at the back of my head, I'm thinking about that situation. I'm like, are you sure you want to do that? But then that just goes back to the whole like control and like just wanting something, and that's like okay, flow,
Yeah,
chill,
for sure.
relax. Do you have any friends that are in situations like that?
That are in open relationships.
Yeah,
Not direct friends. I know people who are in open relationships.
mutuals.
Basically, like they're not my
Yeah.
best friends, but like when I see them, I like we talk. But
Hmm.
apparently it works for them. So I mean, and they seem happy. So who am I to judge?
I think it's just us putting ourselves in that situation, being like, I can't figure out if that would make sense or not.
Exactly.
Because it's like, how do you take yourself out of that?
I always remind myself that like whatever works for you might not work for someone else, and vice versa. So then, like, as long as they're happy and like they're living their life and they feel like they're content, then so be it. I've realized that like to not always judge, I guess in a way, not judge, but I feel like we as humans like we're always constantly like judging in a certain way. So I'm like, okay, that might not be something that I would do, but that doesn't make that right or wrong either. Like, not everything that we think is right is always right anyway. So everyone has different values, I guess, and different ways of seeing things. So
Do you find yourself getting into that mindset and then meeting people who aren't like that? They're opposite what you think of what a relationship should be, and they're putting onto you, oh, you're looking at it wrong. Do you like have moments like that with people where they're like, I don't want to say like when they say like, oh, you're a loser, like, why
yeah,
aren't you
yeah.
just being open? Like, it's fine. Like, what's wrong with you?
I honestly,
Like, do you find not getting that respect in the sense of like you're thinking about being like, oh, this is what they want, whatever, but they're completely like, this is what I like. What's wrong with you?
yeah, I hate entertaining those type of convos actually because I feel like I just don't have the patience to like sit there and make them understand that like everyone's different. Like if you like something a certain way, doesn't mean that I have to like it the way you like it. I do have to say, I feel like with my entourage, that is something like we are very open minded with like how we live our lives and like someone can be
Individually, you're saying?
yeah, exactly. And I feel
Mm.
like there's not one right way of living your life. And if you think that like I don't know, give an example, going out on the weekends is something that you love to do, then if that makes you happy, then go for it, or if you prefer to just sit at home and watch Netflix, that's fine. I feel like everyone likes different things. Everyone wants, honestly, at the end of the day, life is so short that you should pick the way you want to live your life, and no one should sit there and judge how you do it or how you live it.
You said Montreal is bigger than Toronto.
Yeah.
When you come to Toronto, like besides the whole like gay scene, I'm
Yeah.
talking about more about like the culture. Like what do you find like the differences are mostly when you like come
Yeah.
travel here?
Montreal definitely has the European feel to it. So if you come to the old
Mm,
port, it doesn't feel like you're in North America. It literally feels like you're in France. I
mm,
think culturally, it has a different taste and style. I feel like Toronto is more like the mini New York. High skyscrapers. Montreal can't actually have higher skyscrapers than the amount. Like we have a mountain called Mount Royal, and none of these
mm.
buildings can actually pass the mountain.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
So all our buildings can't pass it, so they're not as high as in Toronto. So I feel like
Mm.
I love Toronto as well. It's just I find like me living here and then going to Toronto on the weekends. It's like it's different. I feel like you can tell when someone's from Toronto and you can tell when someone's from Montreal.
Yeah, I bet. Like
Maybe even
personality wise, you're saying, or
yeah,
just the
like
way they talk?
personality wise, the way they even sometimes their style or their accent as well. I feel like you can tell.
Like when I first got on this call with you, were you like he's from Toronto?
Yeah, 100%.
Interesting. I didn't get that. Like I don't see it that way, so interesting.
Yeah, honestly, everyone
You're
thinks
like
I'm.
you just look like an Italian guy to me. You don't look like a
Honestly,
I don't see
everyone
Montreal.
thinks. No one thinks I'm from Montreal. By the way, everyone thinks I'm from Toronto,
No,
which I
we're
don't
always
get.
traveling. You
I
go to
guess. I guess
Toronto,
I'm always.
Miami,
Yeah, so it's either
out
of
and
those
about.
two. I either get Toronto or Miami. I never get Montreal.
Do you have family in Miami?
Miami.
Or
In the outskirts of Miami. Yes, I have family.
oh, okay.
But
You
I.
go
But
there for
I.
them,
But
or you just go for fun?
I go for fun, and I mean, obviously, I
Oh,
see
okay.
them, but I enjoy the heat, and I don't. I don't. I don't like the cold, which is probably why I hate
None of
snow.
us do.
I mean,
Yeah,
you
I
want
know.
snowy Christmas. I rather a beach Christmas. So
Yeah. Well,
I know
yeah,
what you're
that
saying. I'm
makes
just
sense.
teasing.
You know the store Walk-in?
Yeah.
So would they have a few here in Ontario? So I was a store manager for one of them, and we would have meetings about like what clothes to bring in and stuff. And I remember just having such a hard time because I would be suggesting styles and trends that would help
Hmm.
get the store boosted because it was a new store where I was at, so like it would help like get people buy stuff. And it's like it was annoying because we would have these Zoom calls, whatever, and then they would say, "Well, it takes us 8 months to buy the stuff," and then blah 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 coming in. It just added up to take a long time. So I was just like pissed because I'm like, here you're asking for trends of something that might not be still a thing when you get it shipped in.
Yeah.
My understanding of that on a logical sense through like fashion and stuff, Montreal is slightly in a bubble. I remember we would bring up conversations and topics about like oh what we need to do and like even the stores from like Vaughan Mills and
Yeah.
Scarborough we would be like they don't get it, but they didn't care because like it was you know what I mean? They're
It could
very
be.
prideful in Quebec.
I never looked at it that way, but yeah,
No, all the trends and stuff.
I've actually never shopped at Walk-in. I find it not my style, but
It's not my style. I hope they don't watch this. It's
yeah.
not my style either. It's not my style either. I didn't really buy much. They sold 75% of their clothing, or like 70 was their brand, and then there's like 30% other brands. So I would like buy the other brands.
Yeah.
But I know what you're saying. I think in 2016, it was
It
like a
was more
hit.
popular. Yeah, I know. I
It was
get.
like pop, especially here, because they only had it at Vaughan Mills. I don't know if you know Vaughan Mills here
I
in
do know Von Mills.
it was like bumping. Like I remember I shopped there because they at that time their clothing was 70% other brands and then 30% walk-in brands. And then that was a whole struggle because I was like
Why? Yeah.
yeah, like I was frustrated because I knew where they were lacking, but like that's just how they ran.
Yeah.
And then I was like actually that's probably something we could talk about because like I know you're a business guy in a sense because you do the strikeout thing.
Mhm.
How does it feel working for people when you have your own business?
So I'm someone that always likes to be in charge and have control. So it is definitely very hard to like have or trust people. But I think over the years, like I've built like a committee of people that like I can trust and that I know like for me it's like I hate telling someone what to do and then it either taking forever to do or for it not to be to the quality that I would like it. So I think that's the hardest
Mm,
part. But it has its pros and cons. I'm still someone that likes to have a smaller circle of the committee. I feel like that's maybe because like I always like to have the control. So I feel like once it gets too
mm,
big, then I lose touch of the control and I don't like the feeling of it. At the end of the day, like I feel
mm.
like I'm still the face to what I do and I need to make sure that like I feel like my reputation's on the line and like my credibility. So I
Interesting.
need to make sure that it aligns with it. So
Yeah. What do you do for work?
I'm a
Oh,
marketing
okay.
coordinator out of college.
Did you go to school for that?
Yeah, I graduated in marketing and management.
Nice. What school?
John Molson School of Business at Concordia here in
I
Montreal.
have no idea what that is, to be honest with
Yeah,
you.
well, it's
I'm asking like
there's
I
like
know.
two there's like two popular universities. There's either Concordia or McGill.
I've
McGill,
heard
I'm
of
sure you've heard.
Concordia. Yeah.
Okay, so basically, Concordia has their like subdivision of a business school, and it's called John Molson, but technically it's Concordia. Just to
Mm,
give you an idea.
got it.
Yeah.
And how long have you been in that company for?
I went to so it's a college. So I went to school there while I was a student. So I continued working there as a student, and then when I went to university, continued still working there, and then I've kind of grown to what I am now. So it's like 10 years that I'm in there.
Interesting. Actually, I have this question for you. Like, how do you know when to stay into something? Because like I have had an interesting relationship with myself where I'm like, oh, I want to do something new, but it's kind of just like learning that it's okay to do the same thing, if that makes sense.
I feel like you might be someone that likes change. Maybe I don't feel
Absolutely.
like change. Okay,
Yes.
I hate change. By the way, so maybe
Okay,
that's
wait. I'm gonna cut you off for a second.
go.
I'm very moody in that sense where I like change, but sometimes I hate the changes that are made in the way that they are.
Okay,
I'll
but you
make
still like the concept of change.
okay, yeah, yeah. Back to your point.
I like for me, like the concept of change freaks me out. I'm getting more used to change because I feel like it's important to have change, and I think when when change happens, you evolve and you grow as a person. So
Does it bring you back to like your whole mom situation?
maybe an aspect to it, but I think it's more like the unknown part freaks me out. Like I don't know what this is. I'm putting myself in a situation that maybe I feel vulnerable. Like I
Mm,
don't like that feeling of like what's gonna happen, what's gonna come to be. I guess maybe because I like to be in control. So when
yeah,
I change, I'm not in control anymore. So all that stuff freaks me
interesting.
out.
Yeah, I definitely am like that in a sense. I've been going through a few 3 years, I would say, of like just like going with the flow at whatever capacity my brain can do, but just allowing myself to open up to like what's potentially gonna happen or not happen, you know? Do you find
Yeah.
yourself aware of that and do you have like any ways of trying to handle that or do you kind of just revert back to like what you know and stuff?
With change, I've tried to like be open minded to it. I've tried to like not let it freak me out too much to the point where like I'm not letting change happen. I try not to like revert to my old ways and I try not to like stop it from being what it is. It's been a long way coming because I envy people that actually enjoy change. I feel like
Mm.
I hope in a way like I hope I get to a point where like I could be 100% okay with it because I feel like it's such a good thing to have.
I definitely do like change. It takes me a second to get to the change though. Like I know people who can like change on the spot and like
Yeah,
somehow in some way it works out and I'm like why can't I live a life like that where I can just change something and then it works out? Unless it's
trust me.
still working out or trying to work out, I'm just impatient, which is probably the reason why. But like sometimes I see people and they're like just making these quick changes there with personality, job, people, and it's just like it's possible. I think it goes back to the whole personality thing. Like, just it takes me a second. I can make the change for 100%, but my brain has to go through A, B, C, D, E, F, G before I can get to, okay, let's do this. And then, even then, making that decision and doing it and putting it forth into it is like, that's another A, B,
That's
C,
right.
D, F, G, you know?
At least you're good at that. So you should be happy.
I'm still to the best ability for sure, but it's still a struggle for me because I'm just like I deal with the same thing as you. Like I like control in a sense, and I just like knowing what is going on. And if I don't know what's going on, it really puzzles me because my brain can't piece together what's happening. And then again, that's just it just builds up to the whole control thing of like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't understand what's happening here, but I'm not looking at the bigger picture.
I get
Very
that.
like I can be very particular and very like critical in the stupidest littlest ways, and I know it's important, but like not as important as what's being brought to me. And I think that's my downfall personally, because I'm just like, and then that's a whole spiral in itself, because I'm like, what's going on, you know? I don't know if you deal with that too, but it's like,
At least you can go. You can like go through steps. For me, it's like when it's there, I'm like shut down mode. Like
oh.
what's going on? I'm like it's just not happening. But no, like that was more before. Now it's like okay, you
You're like
got this. It's
one step forward, one step.
like me. It's like every between A and B, there has to be like 10 steps, and then we can get to B.
Mm.
And then it's like
Everyone's different in that sense, and it's like that's your own thing that you either have to learn or figure out how to navigate.
exactly. Yeah.
And then that's the hard part too, because then you're a very aware individual of everybody else. So it's kind of just like you take that perspective and you try to apply it to other people. And it's like, wow, it's not working. For me, at least, I get into the point of like, oh, I feel like responsible for their pain or their struggle. And then again, that keeps going back to just myself. I'm like, I got to stop worrying about everybody,
hundred
you know?
percent Same here.
Have you ever had any situations with friends where it was very difficult to say, I can't do this anymore. I gotta do my own thing.
When you say that, the first thing I think about is like past relationships. I think like
Like with a partner or friendships.
yeah, with more with a partner.
Oh,
Sometimes
okay.
I feel like with my friendships, I've always I've like a lot of my friendships have been like friendships of like like since I was a kid, and they've maintained till now.
Mm,
I've been lucky in that sense. Then there's obviously some people that came across like when I was in university and like we're like the closest friends now. But I feel like my friends we've evolved, but we've kind of evolved at the same pace, and like we've been like each other's like rocks, and like so it's cool because like we've grown up to like I remember when they were young and they remember, so it's like we grew up together. So but
yeah,
I would say more towards like partners that's happened where it's
yeah.
like this isn't working, like there needs to be change, like this, like there's something's not giving.
I find with me, yes, I love differently with my relationships, but like there's something up to par with it in different ways that I do with my
Hmm.
friends. So I get really involved with my partner, really involved with my friends, and then if that's not happening here, if that's not happening there, it really drags me down because then I'm just like, what's going on? You know, like you said, you grew up with your friend group. I've had probably five different friend groups, all one of them through dance, one of them through elementary school, one of them through high school. And like again, high school was for me was like 2015. So like we knew each other for 14 years at that point recently. And it's like
Yeah,
for me it's like taking the time to like let people grow in the ways that they need to. I feel like sometimes with me, I don't know if you feel the same way, like you see probably not because you're still friends with everybody, but you get to a point where like you want the wholeness of the group always, but sometimes they have to step out to do their own thing to evolve and let themselves grow. And it's like
100%.
you don't
No,
want to
no,
hold them
like
back, and then you're like, oh, like
yeah, I
why
know. I've
couldn't it be
obviously
that way?
for sure it's normal and healthy sometimes that like some of your friends like disconnect for a bit and like they go do what they need to do, and then like you come back and like you're stronger than ever. So I've had a few of those, but it's just part of life, and like we're all striving for something and for to be better people and whatever that may be, and sometimes like it takes a different course. But I feel like if you're meant to, like if someone's meant to be in your life, like they'll find a way back in somewhere or another.
Do you think that comes with communication
Definitely, I'm a
for it
big,
working?
yeah. When it comes to partners, when it comes to friends, when it comes to family members, everything, I feel like it's so important to be a good communicator, and I feel like this generation sucks at communicating.
What's the line for you for over communicating, under communicating with somebody?
I'm definitely an over communicator.
Okay, maybe that's why it works out. But
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but sometimes not because sometimes they don't want to hear what I have to say. So
hmm.
I also
So
have
you're the
those.
type that just does it either way, and then whatever.
Look, if you're gonna ask me for my opinion, then you're gonna get what I feel on the subject. You know, like if you're gonna ask me your opinion on a subject, may it be anything, I'm not gonna tell you what you want to hear. Then at that point, don't ask me that. You know, just follow what you want. But if you're gonna ask me how I feel on the subject, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna say it for what I feel. But some people don't like that. Some people want to, I guess,
Are you
hear.
blunt?
Yes, I'm blunt. sometimes I could be a bit rough the way it comes out, but it's
Mm.
all with love and respect. But I'm not a savage. I don't think I'm a savage, but apparently people they say think I'm a savage. But I want to be heard. I want it like if I'm gonna ask you something, tell me what you feel about it. I might not like what you have to say about it, but if I'm asking it to you because I want a third party opinion on the subject. So yeah,
I found I would be that type of person to be blunt and just say it as it is, and then I would get into a space of like seeing their response to it and then kind of retracting the next time I speak to them, and then it ends up not working in my favor still because like I'm trying to figure out a different way of communicating to them.
yeah.
And then like it's like not working out still, and I'm just like, what's going on? Because like even what you just said about being blunt, I can be blunt too. And I think it's hard to look at a situation outside of yourself and try to say it kindly, but also just say what it is instead of having the fluff. Because I feel like you're not a fluff guy.
No, I'm not really a fluff guy, but I mean, I do have a good heart. So like, like
I feel like you know what certain situations call for at
exactly,
the
and
end
I'm
of the
not
day.
gonna like. I've also learned that with certain people in my life, like I also have to understand everyone has their own and like their own anxieties and stuff. So
Mm,
I will obviously accustom the way I say things to specific people because I know that they're just not gonna take it in a good way. So yes, like I'm not a full savage, but I mean, like I'll be blunt with them in a nicer way, let's say.
yeah,
I feel like it's just the
I
way
have
you
had.
communicate yourself to people. Like there's some people that that like you could be like, okay, like you're dumb. And then there's other
Yeah,
people where you'd be like, no, like I think what you're doing is not really logical and I think maybe you
yeah,
should do
yeah.
this.
No, I get that 100%. I've had a few friends where they're definitely blunty people, I would say, for sure. And I would just speak to them the way they would speak to me, and they would be so thrown off, and then like they would get so heated and angry, and I'm just like in my head, I'm like, you speak like this every day on the littlest things. What's going on here?
Literally.
You know? I don't know if you had like
Yeah,
situations
I know
like
I
that, but like
do.
sometimes I'm like I'll like say something and then they would get so offended and I didn't know it would be touchy, but it would just like fire up so quick, and I'm like, oh wow.
Yeah, for me it's more like if you're gonna be blunt with me, then I don't see why I can't be as blunt with you. But I guess everyone's different, maybe. I don't know. It's like uh, like I have a few friends like they have strong personalities, so it's like they're very outspoken with how they feel about something, but then like when it's vice versa, it's like oh my god, like no, like I don't want to hear it, and I'm like, okay, like what's the point?
That's the hard part when you have to separate yourself from like, okay, I gotta. It's hard to like be yourself fully all the time and
Yeah,
then try to integrate, because like some people are just full on with their head. This is who I am. If you don't like it, get the fuck out of here. Other
yeah,
people are very like, don't show their true colors,
yeah,
and lack of a better word. And then some people like me, I would say, is like I can be myself, and then like I'm like retracting in and out from like situations depending on that,
yeah.
which is hard sometimes. But
No, you're
I don't
right.
know. I think certain situations call for that. It just depends on what it is. If it's someone that's really really close and they're like going through something, and it's like not like the first time they're going through it, it's multiple times. You're
Yeah,
like, because I can understand from a gay perspective when you have girlfriends and they tell you, you're like, dude, like he didn't like you in the first place, and that was a year ago, and you're still talking to him. Like stupid example,
I
but you
get
know what
it.
I
No,
mean. Just
no, but
like
I get it. I never actually changed who I am. Like that's the thing. Like maybe, and they're like, oh, like you're so not you're like you're too straightforward. But it's just like if you're my best friend, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna change who I am because like I'm too straightforward. Like I don't know, maybe it's a bad mindset to have, but it's more like I want to like the way I am with other people. I want them to be the same thing with me. So it's like if I'm straightforward with you, I want you to be straightforward with me, and I don't want no.
hmm
I hate when shit's said behind someone's back. Like if I'm asking for your opinion and you actually don't like what you don't agree with something, don't tell me you agree and then go tell someone else that you don't agree. I hate that. Like just say it for what it
yeah,
is. I just love. I don't know. I hate lying. I hate liars. I hate that. That's like one of my biggest pet peeves.
Well, it's not you at the end of the day, so why would you want to receive that?
Exactly.
I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm
Yeah,
just
no, no,
like,
for sure.
when you see something you don't like, obviously, or who you are, it won't process correctly in
Yeah,
your brain. So like when you see it, it's like,
right. No, no, 100%.
anyway, switching like conversations
Mm-hmm.
and stuff, because like we were talking about like friends and growing up and everything. I want to like get to know about like your whole where you're at with like spirituality, like what kind of I'm gonna assume it started with your mom
Mm-hmm.
because like obviously when you have like traumatic experiences like that, it brings out a different side of you, and I can see that it could
Mm-hmm.
stem from that or start from that. So like, what's like your like what do you see spirituality as? Like,
So before, I think I saw spirituality more as like a religion. Like I grew up in a very like religious family. We would go to church every Sunday. Like it was very like I read the Bible every night. I read the eight
oh,
passages of the Bible every night. I prayed every night. I was
by the book.
yeah, more than what I am now. But I mean, like with the whole thing with my mom, like if you don't believe in anything, I believe in a superior being and everything. I feel like if you don't believe in something, then like my take is like, what are we here for? Like what there's
Mm,
no I feel like it gives us a purpose. It was like when my mom was sick, it was like all I did was I prayed for her to be good. But I feel like as I got older, maybe it's because I'm gay or whatnot, I felt like I'm not as religious, but I
mm.
still believe in a superior being. I believe that like everything happens for a reason. That's like one of my biggest things that everyone says I'm freaking annoying, but I still think like there's a reason for everything, even though sometimes you may not understand it in the moment, everything finds a way together. I don't know, things just end up making sense. I still feel like that's a big part of me that I still want to explore, like that spiritual side to myself.
I think it's hard because like when you're trying to grow up in this world, you're trying to navigate what's happening on a 3D sense versus like what's above us, what's in us, and all that stuff. So I can see where you're coming at with like not getting it because it's not. I don't want to say normal, but it's not normal in a sense because it's not what we're taught. Yes, but it's also just like not. I don't want to say not cool,
Yeah,
but like when you see people that are into that stuff, they have they dress a certain
yeah,
way, they act a certain way, and you're kind of like turned off by it. There's some truth to it. It's just like you get stuck with seeing the face value of something. You're like, oh, I don't like it, and maybe I shouldn't get into that. And then obviously, are you Catholic
Catholic,
or Christian?
Catholic person.
So
Yeah,
like they're not as strict in a way versus Christian people. That's my opinion on it. I don't think they're as strict, but like I think even with that, it's like there's no, yeah, just read the book. Like you're fine. Do what you're doing, and you'll be okay.
yeah.
You
I feel
know?
like maybe because my dad was born in Italy, so he's even more like he came in with different
Yeah.
morals. Like my parents are actually older. Like my dad was 40 when he
Mm.
had me, 45 when he had
Oh,
my
interesting.
brother. My mom was 36 when she had me, and then 41 when she had my brother. So it's like we grew up with with older parents. That came with an older mentality. So I think that also sculpted like
Mm.
how religion as well and reinforced us. Like we went to catechism, we did all that every Saturday, like not to do communion and confirmation. I feel like it was a big part of our lives, religion. And
Did they move here from Italy,
my
or are
dad
they
moved here
second
actually.
generation?
My dad
Oh,
came to
okay.
Montreal when he was 16, so he was like
Cool.
literally fob off the boat. Like he was like fresh.
And your mom was
My
born
mom was
here?
born here, yes.
Interesting. So you have that mix of first gen, second gen.
Exactly. But it's funny because like my dad is like he's mature, like he's grown to be so much more open-minded than I ever thought he would ever been, which is like
Interesting.
interesting because like he's not like like he's of an older generation, so like
Yeah.
like not that I and that was the big thing even when me coming out, by the way. It was like that was the one
Yeah, I
person
bet.
that I had my concerns with because like he does come from an older generation, but
Was it hard for the extent, like, does your extended family
yeah,
know?
everyone knows. And literally, and this week
Okay.
I literally came out public to the whole world,
Oh, really?
which are
This
like
week?
literally. So my Sheen haul ended up being by like not that I didn't like it was just organically a video that I said I'm gay, and everyone started messaging me saying like, "Oh, is this your public coming out
Oh,
video?" And I was like, "Well,
I didn't
I
know that.
never like not I never like everyone like
It doesn't need to be like that, but
kind of thing where it was like I'm not someone that's gonna like put the flag on my bio, but if you ask me, I'd tell you I'm not like I'm open. My like work knows, like my all my friends know, my grandparents know, like everyone knows. It's just like on
yeah,
social media, I just never wanted it to be like I didn't want it to overpower what I was doing with Strikeout, which is why I never sat there in front of a camera and been like, "Hi world, I'm gay." Like I just didn't see the relevance. Like, but I did but actually it's through that video, like the amount of outpour of support that I've gotten and people sending me their stories and saying like, "Thank you for coming out." You know,
from that just that little video.
me being myself and being like who I am, and I don't know, like people message me saying like stories like, "Hi, like I'm in a relationship, my girlfriend's not 100% out yet, but I just want to applaud you for doing it. I know how much like how hard that is." And it was
Mm,
interesting to see because I didn't think people would value it to that point. For me, it was just like I literally just said a blurb that I was saying, "No one call me," like type of thing, like I'm gay. That was it, but it ended up being something different.
yeah, I get what you're saying so much. It's not like I'm oblivious to that. It just again, it wasn't my experience, so like I don't like when you said they were messaging you, I was like, oh, that's nice. I wasn't like so involved because it wasn't my experience at all, you know. And I think that's the hard part too. And then like trying to integrate with this whole community because like everyone's so different from the way they got
Yeah,
here, and then how they move forward with
yeah.
it. You even said like you didn't feel like putting your the flag in your bio, like you didn't have to do that,
No, I know. I didn't feel like I had to
you
do
know.
that, but I feel like people look at my page, they see what I do, but they don't see all of me. And that I feel like I have withheld from showing, like, yes, I'm professional. Yes, I fundraise. Yes, I inspire. Yes, I want to make a difference, but there's also me who also wants to inspire other people because I had an amazing coming out story, like it wasn't, even
Mm.
in 2024, like you still hear stories of parents like throwing their kids out. This
Disowning their
exactly.
kids,
And
yeah.
like I'm thankful enough that I didn't experience that. I have my father who I go on a date and I come home and he's like, "So tell me the gossip." Like, but not everyone has that. And I feel like if you could use your platform in a way to like for me not only inspire people in what I do with the kids, but maybe even with my I guess with my sexuality, why not?
What you just said with the whole like letting people in, I think some people need to learn that it's okay that it's private. Because like you can like I understand there's a lot of people.
Hmm.
If it's something that you want to do, go ahead. It's just
Yeah.
like there you don't need to do that. Like you need to go meet people out in the world and talk to them, like have the conversation. Like I don't tell people like I consider myself bisexual. I don't have that conversation. Even that conversation in itself is a whole thing that I don't even talk about. I don't talk about it. Yes, for a little part because like I don't need to get into the details and to try to explain to them what this and that is, but it's not part of me. Like me is what I like doing, how I'm presenting myself, how I
Yeah.
speak to people, how, even like when I had Instagram, I deleted it and got it back recently. Even before then, I had like almost 3,000 people. I shared a lot of things too, like not in that sense, but like some other things. And like I would still see people and they would have no idea what I'm going through or what, you know what I mean? It's over their head. So it's kind of just like people actually don't care at the same time. So it's kind of like no one needs to. I get it could be helpful and you can
Yeah.
help people in a way, which you could do whatever you want with that. I'm just saying, like, sometimes people get in this zone of like, you need to do this. It's like, no, I don't need to do this. This is not, you know what I mean? Like, there's two sides to it.
For sure. No, I didn't take that outpour in a way of like, oh my God, I need to come on and make videos about like who I slept with or like stupidity like that. I wouldn't like because whatever people create whatever content they want, and if that works for them,
Yeah.
sure, and if that's how they want to do it. But for me, it's more like I've maybe held back on showing my entire self, and that's fine. And I think like, and I don't regret that to be honest. I think like I'm
Hmm.
definitely at a different mental state now than I was before, and maybe if I would have done that before, it wouldn't have been a good thing. But now I'm like
Yeah.
I'm at a different part of my life where like I actually don't care what anyone has to say. Like really don't care. If, like you can unfollow me
Hmm.
because I just came out and you just found out I'm gay. And if you don't like that, so be it. I don't care. I think 5 years ago, I cared a lot about that, and I didn't want
Mm.
that. I wanted so much to get people support that I was fearing if they knew all about me, maybe they just wouldn't support me.
Mm.
Now I'm like, yes, I am a founder of Strikeout, and yes, I'm gay, and yes, I don't care if you don't like it, and and if you don't like it, that's fine. Go ahead and unfollow me. So I don't feel like I owe people anything. I don't feel like I need to prove something. It's zero to do with that. If I could build a bigger platform, and if that entails me authentically showing who I am, that can have a greater impact not only for for Strikeout, but if I could inspire other people's in other ways with just being who they are and being okay with that, then that makes me happy.
I think it just goes back to figuring out who you are and what you're here to do,
Exactly.
because that's the most challenging part, especially in this lifetime. Is just being like, why am I here? Why am I experiencing this?
Hmm.
Why am I working here? Why is this person coming to me? Why is that person leaving
Yeah.
me? Why, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
have you taken a moment to figure out like what your life is here for?
In the weirdest way, I feel like I was put on this earth for a reason. I think we all are, but I think my reason is to do good. If I look at my life, like if I hadn't lost my mom, I don't know if I would have found my passion in fundraising, and I don't know where I
Mm.
would be. But I've accepted that that was my life, and I accepted this was meant to be whatever it was supposed like, like. But if you're gonna sit there and question everything, it's not gonna help you either way. Like even for like,
Yeah,
like I always told myself like, shit happens, accept it for what it is, and move on, and that's it, and
yeah.
just keep trekking forward. And that's honestly what I've done in all my aspects of life.
Do you believe in past lives?
Uh, kind of. Like I feel like things happen to you, and you're like, okay, like I feel like I just lived through this before, but I don't get how or like flashes and stuff. But
If you're interested, I feel like if you took the time to like get into something like that, I feel like you would really get something out of it, because I started like getting into that whole sphere of stuff, and it kind of been understanding how everything correlates to my life now.
mhm,
Because like what I'm told and what I believe, obviously, but I had to learn about it. I believe we're reincarnated and we have certain like things we need to do. There's so many of us on this earth, so like it's not like a big picture thing. It's just like individually as our souls reincarnate, we have certain things that we need to
yeah,
do and fulfill to get to where we are. Me and you speaking right now, or even knowing each other, we were in a past life, like for something, whatever, like whoever you communicate with or cross paths with, we all met each other in a past life, and then before that, and then before that. Like what I learned was my family in my past life. So like in this lifetime, we have to learn a lesson, whatever that may be,
mhm,
between our relationship.
mhm.
My nonna was my sister in my past life. So like when I went to the person that told me that, I was like, that makes so much sense, because like sometimes I talk to her like a sister. That's why, like, some that's where you see some people have relationships with their parents and they're like very friendly. It's like they're probably best friends in their past life. And then you have other parents that were just like not even there with their kids, and there was probably a different kind of relationship. It's a
That's a cool
cool
thing. I never,
nuance to
yeah, I
think.
never thought of that.
Yeah, it's really cool, because then you're like, hmm. And like even what we talk like talking about exes and stuff, I was told my ex was my grandfather in my past life. And then like I again, like when I was told this, I was like, what? And then like, yeah, like I'll take whatever I want from it. But like she just said, like when you guys broke up in this life, that's when he passed away in your past life. And I was like, oh, but the point where she was saying was like, when people die, nothing's the same again. It changes.
No,
And that was
yeah,
like a whole thing, because I went through my stuff with that one. But she was just trying to help me and be like, you have to learn that whatever happened and what was with that relationship, that's what it was, and you have to move forward, because like if someone dies and you don't move forward, you're stuck. That was just basically her trying to help me move on with that situation. That was my lesson for that,
yeah, no, for
and that
sure.
was really helpful. So I think maybe with you, that could
Yeah,
be something that's like,
no, that's actually really cool. I
it's
never
cool.
thought of that. I've gone to see a medium, and that was a really cool experience. Not sure how I feel about it, but it was a really nice experience. Like
Overwhelming?
it was very interesting. Like there were certain things that I was like, what the fuck? Like I don't know how you knew that.
Mm.
So it was like, I don't know. That's why I'm like, I don't know how I feel about it, but
Did
I
she
mean, there
come?
were
Did
certain
your mom
things.
come through?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I brought like photos of like family members, and like he knew which ones were live and dead, and I was like, that's like, and like in the picture there was like my grandfather's girlfriend, who yes I consider to be like my grandmother because they've been together forever, but like he like went on her photo and he's like, and my grandmother was even in this photo and he's like, this one is not your grandmother. I was like, okay, didn't know how you knew that.
You're like
And
trying to
then
trick him a little bit.
yeah, it was like there was just it was cool. So it's like, yeah, I feel like there's so much out there that like
It's a whole world that we're not brought to. We're not learned
exactly.
about because
Yeah,
it just is what it is. I don't know
yeah,
who the higher powers of this world want to keep us on a certain level, but I really think it's important for us to like consider other options of
100%.
understanding and consciousness because it's like really important at the end of the day. Because like you going to a medium, as weird as it sounds, we all have that power in a way to do that. Maybe not on that level, but we still have a
Yeah.
connection. Because I assume like sometimes you go out through your day and you probably feel your mom around you, no?
Yeah, no, 100%.
And
Like
that's not
there's
a lie.
circumstances that happen. No, for sure. But like I see you said, I feel like some people just know and have a better understanding of their gifts than others.
Do you allow yourself to jump into that, or you kind of just like, okay, I felt that, uh,
No,
I'm
like
good
it
now.
doesn't scare me, but I've never like fully wanted to tap into that energy.
Mm.
I've kind of like let it come to me. Like I know she's there, her presence is there, but I've never like put candles on the floor and like started meditating and like call upon her. Like that
Come
shit
forth
freaks
to
me
me.
out. Yeah, like that stuff maybe freaks me out, and I don't want
No,
no bad
yeah,
energies in my house. But like, there's things that have happened that I'm like, okay, like
that makes sense.
that makes sense, or yeah, she's like there.
Do you
So
find yourself second guessing yourself if it's truly her sometimes? Or like have you gotten to a point where like you're like, oh no, this is her?
no, I feel like
Or you
I'm
still
like, okay, that's
question it
her.
sometimes?
No, I know. I feel like that's something that I never did, never questioned it. I'm
Mm,
like, my mom was my best friend. Like, it has to be her, or maybe like I've convinced myself it was her, and I never questioned that it wasn't.
yeah. It's very interesting because like it's so beyond your understanding of being like
I know.
because like now I got into a point where like I can feel things and then actually like what you talk about like you don't want to get bad energy like at one point I want to say last year I was experiencing stuff like that but then I had to
Mhm.
understand that I actually had the power to actually be like no I'm good so like I don't want to sound like a weirdo I know I'm not but like sometimes I go on walks and like I'll feel something so weird and I'm like walking my dog I'm like not today and like it doesn't like I don't have that experience where I feel like something's there, and
Okay.
it's cool to have that control. So I feel like if you had that, you maybe want to dive into it
Uh,
more. One time, I my cousin's grandfather passed away like 2 years ago, and I don't know what I was. It was such a random day. It wasn't like I'm like in that mindset, and I felt him around me. I'm like, this is weird. And then I kept hearing, "I love you, I love you, I love you." So I just called my cousin, like, "Hey, I don't know why I feel like I'm calling you, but like I told her the situation, the whole I love you part, and she's like, "Oh, that's cool, blah blah blah." She's like, "No, that's amazing." Like I kept saying, like, "Sorry, this is so random and weird." Like it just came up for me. She's like, "Yeah, sure."
yeah,
She was working downtown that day, and she had a pizza box, and on the pizza box says, "No, no loves you." And
that's
her girl,
scary.
yeah, scary. You know what I mean? So that was the first time like I got a confirmation that like something was actually real. So I was like, okay,
Yeah.
there's something here. But it's interesting.
No, definitely. It's something to look into.
Yeah. Well, anyways, we've been chatting for, I know it says 144, but it's been a while. This was great. It was nice connecting with you. Hope you got something out of it, and whoever watches this, get something out of it too. So thank you.